Okay. Um, Something I never talk about here in Atlanta sports. I'll talk about it now. That's Georgia Tech. And without offending the part of my audience that is a Tech fan, I don't talk about them because largely they are not relevant enough to talk about at this point in time, especially when it comes to their football program. I'm not saying that can't change, but what I am saying is you guys, as the audience, got to dictate what the show should be about every single day. And Georgia Tech hasn't dictated anything for it to be about. Now, I got into this conversation yesterday. I was filling in on 92.9 with Steak Shapiro, and they were talking about Brent Key and the idea that he could come back as the coach after being the interim. He's 4-3 since taking over the interim job, and he's done really, really well. New athletic director Jay Batt has to figure out what he wants to do in hiring the 14th full-time coach in school history. Signing the approach is December 21st. Transfer portal window opens December 5th. So the timing of this is pretty critical. Now, my whole contention was about Brent Key is two things. One, don't become prisoner of the moment. Do not assume that what you saw in this small sample set is actually going to be extrapolated out over the course of the next year, next 2 years, next 3 years, if it all goes to plan. You've got to vet this more than what you've seen, right? And while Brent Key has become a very good recruiter, and look, this is his alma mater, and it's a big deal for him, and he's passionate about it. He loves it. All those things are super important. However, it boils down to who else is available. I mean, ultimately, that's what this should be about. You take the absolute best candidate, not the most convenient one. Now, the other one, Coastal Carolina head coach Jamie Chadwell, is the other big name that they're talking about. And for those who don't know about Chadwell, he runs a very sort of non-traditional, unconventional offense, very much an option offense. And the thought there is that, well, this unconventional offense can help bridge the gap with the talent level in the ACC that other schools have, similar to what Paul Johnson did. I would ask Jay Batt if he was around for the Paul Johnson era and the end of it. And while wins were there, I would ask you, do you constantly want to deal with every time you lose a game and you look like you're getting outclassed because your offense gets, mauled or isn't effective? Do you want to deal with the groans from the fan base, the boosters, and everybody else about why are we running this high school offense kind of deal? Is that a reason not to hire a guy? No, it's not. But, you know, the evolution of the sport of football is changing, and more people are doing it one way than you're not. I.e., like if you are the only company still handwriting checks to pay your employees, you might want to look at how you're doing it when the rest of the world is like direct deposit and it's all electronic and everything else, like no one's getting a paper check anymore, kind of deal. Yeah. You might not want to be the only one still handwriting checks from a checkbook to pay your employees. There's probably something, off there. It's not that it can't be done, it's just a little bit off. But let's just think about this objectively. And I'm not even saying any of these names are viable options for Georgia Tech. But hypothetically speaking, if Deion Sanders was an option, would you take Brent Key or would you take Deion Sanders? I think the answer is obvious. If Matt Rule wanted to come to Georgia Tech, would you take Matt Rule, who's rebuilt two programs, not one, but two, one at a group of five level, the other at a power five level, and made them contenders? Um, would you want Matt Rule or would you want Brent Key? I think you know the answer. You want Matt Rule. I mean, you know, a lot of this also has to depend on who else that they are looking at. What are the calls have they made? You know, um, there are other coaches who have done really amazing things that you can go and get, and you don't have to go down to the group of five level to pull somebody up there to do it. You kind of just got to do the search, right? Like the search is the search, and you got to do the search. So I don't know that necessarily there is a easy way to go about doing this. I think in general, you know, if they're going to get this right, the way to do it is not to rush it and try to get it done before a certain time frame because of X, Y, and Z. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm not sure that that is the easiest way to go about doing this, and this has got to be a long process. Whoever you're going to hire is going to be a very long process. And yeah, what does that look like? I don't know, guys. I mean, it's tough. It's really, really tough. But it's one of those things where uh, if you get it wrong, you're in a spot where you are right now. You're hustling to try to find something to get right again. I just, I couldn't begin to sit there and tell you all the names that may be out there of who would want to do it. But I mean, again, if you're going to reach into the group of five, right? Like, why are you going to Coastal Carolina? Call Luke Fickle at Cincinnati, right? Like, call a school like that. Call a program that has been near, winning 10 games every single year, that has an offense that looks like offenses look, right? That to me is one of those things where you really start to uh, get a sense of what these teams, or what your team could be with those kind of coaches. Why not give that guy a whole bunch of money? And that's the other thing, by the way. The money issue is the real thing. Like, my feeling here is that if they go with Brent Key or they grab Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina, part of the decision is financial. And that's the wrong reason to hire a coach. Now, again, it's not my money. And it's not, I don't have to ask boosters for extra money to pay a head coach, or pay off the old head coaches or whatever. But the finances of this thing really should be at the bottom of the priority list, because the finances sort of take care of themselves as the football takes care of itself, right? The finances only don't work out when you lose. But why wouldn't you call a Luke Fickle type coach, um, who has gotten Cincinnati to the college football playoff, and see if he wants to overtake or take over an ACC team? Because again, in reality, there's not that many coaching jobs out there of Power Five nature. Obviously, Auburn's there, Nebraska is there. Like, those are the two prime jobs that are out there. Is he a guy that's going to get that call? No, but that's what waiting it out does. Let those jobs get filled, and then pick up the phone and figure out if Lou Fickle's still available. Because guess what? Brent Key is always going to be there. No one is trying to steal Brent Key from you. And at worst case scenario, you got the guy that, at least in the interim, in the short term, made your team a little bit better. Give him a 2 or 3 year deal, prove it, and see what happens. And wait for the next, when the coaching cycles all turn over again. So I don't necessarily think you need for 1 second to make this announcement within the next 10 days or so, like some are asserting. I think you wait this thing out and figure out what the best option is. I genuinely do. Like, I honestly believe that that is the best way to do it.